Hi there, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the 7th video in the restoration of the SABA Meersburg 100. This time I'm going to tackle the entire RF alignment. As you can see there, I've got the faceplate on. It came out beautifully. I needed to put the faceplate on so I can get the alignment and positions. We've got all the instructions. We've got the instructions in English for the Freiburg, in German for the Meersburg 100. I'm going to put those instructions side by side so we can sort of correlate between them, try and understand what it is they're telling us to do. If you don't speak German, obviously, if you do, it's not an issue. And the most important thing I want to do here is I want to stretch the FM band. I want to be able to pick up a station which at the moment is not reached by this particular FM band. This one goes to 100 megahertz, which is quite normal for that period. And I've got a station that I listen to all the time, which is at 101.6. And a long time ago when I started this, I thought, well, what's the point of restoring a radio that doesn't pick up my favorite station? And then obviously, as you learn, you start figuring out it's not that difficult to stretch the end. Sometimes the stretching to 101.6, in fact, what I like to do is stretch it so that the end of the band, it's at 102 megahertz. So my 101.6 is just slightly before the end, okay, to allow for any drift if it happens, so I can fine tune it. Sometimes what happens is when you shift that up, the bottom end shifts up as well. So if you are picking up from 87.5, which I think is the case here, and you go up 2 megahertz, you're going to go to 89.5. Now that would be bad for me because there are two stations down there that I'd also listen to. One is at 88 and the other one is at 89.3. So I've got two at one end. In fact, one right at the end, 88, and the other one at 101.6. So I've got to make sure that when I shift it up to pick up 101.6, I don't lose my 88 or 89.3. And I will show you how to do that. That's obviously the last bit because I do the AM bands first, and then we'll get to that end and I'll show you how to get that done if you want to do it. So if this sort of thing is interesting to you, stick around and enjoy the video. Now that the IF alignments have all been dealt with and the motor's been dealt with, I want to do an RF alignment, and the first thing I did was to clean the faceplate. It's in immaculate condition. It was cleaned, it was put back very carefully because these things are incredibly brittle. If you break these, you will cry. Okay, so before starting the RF alignment, and I'll be following the instructions, first thing to do is they tell you to adjust the pointer to the end. So we go in there and we make sure that the pointer aligns with the end. Close the capacitor all the way and make sure that this is at the end stop. It's actually going beyond. I want to get it right to the edge there, so I'll move the spring at the top. I think it's supposed to be at 510. Actually, there's a markup there. Maybe that's what they mean. I hope it is. That's exactly on the edge. That's where it's supposed to be. So we know that we've got a good reference point to start from. And if we check the instructions, what they tell us to do is to set in fact, I can refer to the Freiburg one. So here's the Freiburg. It says alignment of the oscillator and preselector. Check with pointer stop on the right. Pointer must be at corresponding point in the dial. The rotor of the variable capacitor must fit flush with the stator. And we've done that. Connect signal generator through a dummy antenna to the antenna socket. Okay. And if we then go one step further, we can then correspond that to the service instructions for our own one. It says press the K for shortwave, and at 7.2 megahertz adjust L11, which is the oscillator, and L2, which is the antenna, for maximum deflection or tone. Okay, so let's set up the signal generator. So frequency 7.2 megahertz, amplitude, I'll give it the minimum it'll go, modulation, type AM, depth 30%. Let's send a 1 kilohertz tone. We send it through here. So it comes in there. I'll leave the amplitude the same. I won't put attenuation. I'll decide how much attenuation I need later. I can put 3, 6, 12, 24, or any sum of those. I will activate the dummy antenna and the signal comes out here. We feed that into the AM antenna socket or sockets. Select shortwave, and here's the important bit. All the adjustments for the AM RF, with one exception, which I'll show you in a second, are all here. Now these four, there are two coils there. That would be oscillator and antenna coil. That would be oscillator and antenna capacitor. This is for the low frequency, that's for the high frequency. So this is for shortwave, same for medium wave, and with long wave there are only two, one there, one there. These are adjusted only on the one frequency, but it's all in this section, so it's easily accessible. Now the RF alignment for the medium wave is done with the ferrite antenna, but then you switch it to the external antenna and you peak that signal with that coil over there. So that's the antenna coil for the external antenna, which is that one over there. So let's see where we are first. I just want to show you, there's a little blip on here. There's 7 megahertz, there's 8, that says 7.2. Doesn't say it, but there's a blip, and that's where 7.2 is. So if we tune in, oh, bloody hell. I'm looking at it at the right angle. It is absolutely spot on. So the oscillator doesn't need changing. What I can do is check this modulation is a funny tone. That's better. It's exactly spot on. So what we can now check is the antenna circuit and see if we can peak that. And for that we'll keep an eye on the meter. I'm going to put this on dummy load so I don't have to listen to it. But our meter keeps reading. I'm going to increase the volume. Let's leave it about there. And we need to peak L2, which is this guy over here. So let's see if we get anything out of this. A little bit. That's it. We've improved that a little bit. Now we've got to go to the other frequency. And the instructions tell us to set the signal generator to 15.2 megahertz, which I will do now. 15.2 megahertz. And we leave the tone as is. And now we've got to come along here. There should be another blip here somewhere. There's 15, there's 15.2. There's the blip. See how far away it is. I'm going to put the speaker back on. Might have to drop the volume a bit. Just slightly out. That would be perfect there. So I'm going to adjust the oscillator slightly. And we have to adjust capacitor 16, which will be the top one. Where exactly are we? No, I've got to do it a lot more gently than that. Why is it doing that? There we go. I am there. Take the tone off. Now I'm going to peak the antenna circuit. And we need to peak this guy over here. This one is stuck. I have to just loosen it a bit. It's going a bit, it's improving a little bit. I don't think I'm getting more. In fact, I'm getting less. That seems to be a peak. You've got to push it and take your hand away because it seems to be putting some pressure on there. I don't think I'm going to get it better than that. And that, my friends, is the RF alignment for the shortwave. Done. I'm going to recheck it on both sides and we're good. All right, so let's get on to medium wave. For medium wave, you press M and they tell us to couple the signal generator signal to the radio through a loop so that it can be picked up by the ferrite antenna. It's pretty easy to do. Now normally I'd have the radio on this, and the way I've done it is I've wound a loop around here. I just connect to there. This radio is too big for this, so I'll just connect to there anyway and leave this on the table. So I'll just connect this to here and here. And I may need to lift it up. I'll just leave it there for now and see what we need to do with it. Now they tell us to set the signal generator to 570 kilohertz, and I'll put the audio on. So 570 is where? Where's 570? 570, there's 510, there's 600. 570, there's a little blip down here. So we'll go along. I can hear it. It's a little bit off. This is difficult to, this is not well coupled. Just putting that loop vertically. And I'm moving the antenna, rotating the antenna. I have to increase the amplitude of the signal. Put 20 millivolts. Maybe even a bit more. Okay, that's better. That's better. That's where it's peaking. Oh, this is going to get boring. It's exactly on 570. Brilliant. So all I'm going to do is peak the antenna circuit. But if I had to peak this one, this is the one I would peak. It's the coil L13. Okay, the antenna circuit, the antenna coil is L4, which is this one here. And we'll watch the meter. I'll switch the thing to dummy load, give it some volume so we can see it on the meter, and peak L4, see if we get anything out of it. I think this thing has been pretty much aligned so far. Oh God, that's not even worth it. That was nothing. Okay, but it has been done. And now they tell us to set the signal generator to 1520 and adjust C19 for the oscillator and C6 for the front end for maximum. So 1520 on the signal generator. I'll give this some audio. Whoops. Change the frequency to 1520 kilohertz. And we'll tune that way. And 1520, where's the blip? I think that's the blip. Where would the blip be? 1415. It'll be that guy there. So it's slightly off. Okay. So I'm going to move towards it and peak it. I'll use the tone for that. So I need to adjust that capacitor. Heading in the right direction. A bit more. Where did I say it was? There. And we're through. And we are peaked. Not quite. Let me rock this a bit. Yeah, we're on there. Okay, let me put the tone off, put the volume up, and we'll adjust the other one, the other capacitor, for a peak signal. It's moving a little bit. Not much, but we got a little bit out of that. Okay, so what else does it tell us to do now? Well, it tells us to repeat, and that's what I'll do. Okay. And now they tell us to go back to to remove the ferrite antenna or connect it into the external antenna. Okay, done that. Put it to external antenna, and at 570 kilohertz, which is what I'll put on the signal generator now, I'll put the tone on. And we'll go to 570, which is that guy there. Okay, that's at a max. And what I need to do is I need to adjust that coil back there for a peak. Now what I've done is I've taken the antenna or the signal generator and put it back into the antenna sockets at the back there. So again, we'll watch the meter. I'll take the tone off and I'll just give it some volume so we can see it there. And I need to peak it. See if we get anything. Oh, very little. That's about it. Okay, perfect. That's done. And now they tell us to press long wave and set the signal generator to 190 kilohertz and change or adjust those two, the oscillator coil and the antenna coil for a max. So let's put the tone back on. Go to 190. Where's 190? Again, there should be a blip somewhere there. There it is over there. That's 200. That's the blip over there. So, whoa, again, too loud, too loud. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit off. So I need to go to there. Let me put it there and peak it. So rinse and repeat. Put it on load, give it some volume, go to that coil, and I'm going to start adjusting it now. Oh, too much volume. Actually, the oscillator, I prefer to do it with a tone. That's done. Back to putting it on dummy load, give it some volume, and adjust the antenna circuit for a max. Let's see if we can do that. Again, perfectly peaked. I'm almost disappointed. You always like a little bit of a gain on there. Folks, the RF alignment of the long wave, medium wave, and short wave is done. It is very accurate, very, very accurate. The antenna circuits have been peaked. So that is it for the AM RF alignment. Okay, this is moving on nicely. All right, let's move on to the FM alignment, which is actually quite simple, but there's something I want to do here, which is to actually stretch the band. So if we look at the instructions and we look at the two side by side so we get an idea of what they want, connect the VHF signal generator to the dipole socket. What I'm doing is I'm not using a signal generator. I'm actually using this little thing from ELV Sub 3. I did a review on it. It's very, very good. I can send a signal on whatever frequency I want. I've got some preset frequencies on here. Now I know the frequencies that I'll be using are 88, 92 and 98 according to the instructions. So I've preset those already. I've got the minimum RF power. And I've got a little wire out here just to act as a small antenna. I'm not even connecting it directly to the dipole because this is very close and this is quite a hot signal. So we'll just use it like this. Now, the first frequency they tell us to put it on is 88. So let's look at what they say. They tell us to set it to 88 and adjust C206 and C205, which is the RF, for maximum. 206 is the oscillator, 205 is the actual RF front end. Now, if you remember, 205 was the one we detuned to reduce the noise. It's over here before we connected the IF signal to it. So that's just peaking that as well. Looking at the instructions side by side, we can look at the English one, which says, okay, connect the signal generator to the dipole. At 88 megahertz, adjust C206, which is the oscillator, and 205, which is the RF for max. If we look at this side here, this is the one for our tuner. At 88, C09, C109, and C105. So the numbering is different, but the concept is the same. And if we look at the drawing itself, what they're actually talking about is 109 over here, and then 105 is that one over there. So it's 109 over here, and 105 over there. That 105 is the one we detuned to reduce the noise when we're doing the IF alignment. So those are pretty big caps, should be pretty easy. Let's set it up and see where we are. Okay, here we go. Let's go to 88. I've got to set this on. Is it on? Yes, RF on. 88, I'll put that to the side, see if we can pick it up. Okay, here's the problem. I've got a station exactly at 88. And that means that I've got to put my signal generator a bit closer to the antenna at the back. There we go. And, I mean, look at this thing. It's absolutely spot on there. So I'm not changing that at all. But I've shown you which ones I would have to do. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peak that, that 105 because I detuned it. So if we look at the meter again, I'm going to put the volume up. I'll put this on dummy load, give this some volume so we can hear it. And I'm just going to peak that C105. See if that goes up or down or otherwise. Very slight change, very slight change. If I listen to it, I can hardly hear it. So it wasn't detuned. I had turned it back a little bit. So that's done. 88 is done. Okay, what's next? Well, next they tell us it's time for alignment of the 98. Let's put this on speaker. Change this to 98. There's another station there. There's no antenna at the back. This thing is picking up very well. So I'm going to go to 98, which is over there. See how far off we are. Okay, guys, this is a joke. It's there. And I'm actually quite pleased that it's there because aligning the oscillator on this one is easy. Let me show you. The oscillator on this guy is actually that lug over there. It goes through a threaded L-shaped thing here. So you literally are tightening or loosening this bolt going through this thing here. And it pulls that wire. And that's what actually does the alignment for the oscillator. Now, I don't have a problem adjusting that. In fact, I'm going to for the next stage. But the cores on here, the other one, the antenna circuit, L103, and there's actually L102 back here as well, is a very funny, what do they tell you? They tell you to rotate the bar. I have never had to adjust one of those. If I wanted to, if I needed to, I'd remove the cover and really understand what's going on there, because you've got to get a tool in there. It's very difficult. It's not a screw. It's actually like a bolt. And I don't like doing that, and I don't need to do that, which is a good thing. So 98 is fine. Nothing to do there. Now they tell us that at 92 we adjust L102, which is that crazy one that I said I'm not going to adjust. And I don't believe I need to because it's pretty well peaked as it is. This thing's receiving very, very well. So as I've said often enough, sometimes you need to leave well enough alone. And then they tell us to balance or neutralize the front end. And I'm not going to do that because I'm not sure that I have the tools to properly align that. It's got to do with balancing the tube. Sometimes if you change the tube, I would imagine you'd need to do that. I've never had to worry about that, and this thing receives very, very well as it is. So I'm leaving that as it is. And the last thing I want to do is what I do with most of these radios if I can, which is to stretch the FM dial. Now let me show you what I mean. Now if you look at this, it says that the dial goes up to, or this radio goes up to 100. Now it does go a little bit beyond that. And I want to see exactly how far beyond that it does go. So I'm putting the volume up. We were on 98. Let me go back to 98 and pick it up. There it is. Now if I start rotating it, let's go to 100. Let's go to there. I would obviously need to tune to the right. The station's over there. Okay, there we go. Now, how far does it go? How far is it going? I'm going to put it all the way to the right. And now I can play with this. Yeah, it's nearly there. I need 101.6. It's nearly there. But what I need to do is I need to shift it. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the end here is 102, which means my 101.6 will be slightly to the left. I don't like leaving it at the limit. Put that down. So what I'm going to do is start shifting and rotating that antenna adjustment over there and see if we can't get this to 102. So what I'm going to do is leave this at the end here, and I'm going to be playing with this and that screw thread there to get this thing to tune at the end at 102, which means I will cover my 101.6. I'm going to have to leave the tone on, and I can hear it. There it is. I'll just lower the volume. And now what I need to do is to start shifting this. And I need to know which way to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this out of range. I can still hear it, but it's out of range. And now I'm going to adjust this guy. And whichever way it picks up better, it means I'm going the right direction. So I'm going to try clockwise first. No, it's anti-clockwise. Yeah, good. Anti-clockwise. Now I'm going to go further. I like to leave it just at the edge of where I can hear it, and I can hear it. Very, very faintly, but I can hear it. There we go, and I can go a little bit past it already. Where am I? There I am. In fact, now I can put it to 102 and do the alignment for 102. Let's see.
Nas jornadas parlamentares do PS durante 2 dias. No jantar de abertura das jornadas, que tem como tema.
There it is. Okay, good. That seems to be at 102. And that means that at the end of the dial, right down there, at 102, that's 102 now. Now, if I want to go to 101.6, which is where my station is, let's see if I can pick it up. There we go. That's 101.6. And this is picking up very, very well, even without an antenna. Now, what has this done to the other end of the dial? Let's have a look. You see, I've got a station at this end of the dial at 88, which I sometimes listen to. So I'm going to put this thing to 88. See if we pick it up. Where we pick it up. Now, if we change the dial on that end, it can actually shift it rather than stretch it. Okay, what it's done. See that instead of being at 88 now, it's down here. And that's perfectly fine. All I've done is I've stretched the whole band. So you might ask, is that a good idea? Nothing here now corresponds to the station or to the channel where it's supposed to be. But the point is, I don't care, because I know where my favorite stations here are. We've got about 6 stations in Madeira, 7 FM stations in Madeira. Some of them are repeated in different frequencies at different parts of the island. But the ones that I pick up very, very well where I am are literally like 3. So I know where they are. And the important thing is that I get that 101.6. What I could do is I could adjust the alignment here, bring this back up and compress it again. I don't need to bother with that because I'm getting optimum results. I know now that this is my 88. There's 88.8, which it's actually not far off. No, that's 89.3. That's the station at 89.3, which is now moved down. And the one that I want, there's a 99, which is a classic channel, which is now at 98 point something. And my important one, there we go, 101.6. And my friends, that is the FM RF alignment. What I wanted to show you is that sometimes with these radios, in fact often with these radios, you don't get to 108 or 106 or 104, 102. There's various lengths of the FM band spreads depending on the year in which these radios were produced. And a lot of the ones I do go up to 100. And unfortunately, the station I need is just slightly beyond that. If you need to go a little beyond that, you can. I mean, if you wanted to go to 103, you probably could. If you wanted to go to 106, 108, I don't think you could. I think the whole thing would become so washed out that you wouldn't get good reception anywhere. The point is, this thing is so close. It's 1.6 megahertz above the end of that. In fact, it's not 1.6. It's about 0.6 because this was already going to 101. And so by stretching it just a little bit, you make this radio so much more useful. And for me, makes it meaningful because otherwise I wouldn't use it at all. I'm sure I wouldn't use it. So I'm happy with that result. Good stuff. Okay. And now we finished the RF alignment. We finished the stretching of the FM band and doing all that stuff. And I am going to take another break and leave you for today. And thank you for your company, and I hope you've enjoyed that. And if you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon and PayPal. Links in the description below. So once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.